Yeah, man. So we're coming to you live from the garage. Just kind of, kicking some stuff around. I'm actually trying to get this, this live thing kicking a little bit more for you guys. You guys have been wanting. I've been getting a lot of recommendations on this stuff from, especially people from YouTube and other social media platforms that people have been wanting the live stuff. So this isn't anything really formal or anything like that. We're just kind of kicking around. We're getting pumped up for tonight. We got football coming back tonight. It seems like we're going to have a little bit of a basketball break as it is because of, um, you know, the Celtics and the Raptors. They're two bums. They can't even scrap it out and figure out who the hell wants to win that series. But I remain steadfast. I still think that series that the Heat just had last is going to be the toughest series they had. And don't forget, like, don't even though the Heat kicked the holy hell out of the Bucks, bro, let's not make it seem like, they weren't game. They didn't have a tough go of it at certain points. So I don't know, man. People keep telling me, I just saw this dope Paul Pierce. He's like, oh, the Heat haven't been tested. Exactly who has been tested? If they haven't been tested, who has been tested in the East? I'd love to know, Paul, please. Enlighten me. If you don't think the Heat have been tested, who has been tested? It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Oh, that they haven't been tested. What are you talking about, dude? So you're telling me just because Boston and Toronto, because they're having a long series, you consider that tested, but they're not taking on as good as a team. It's just dumb logic to me. But what do you expect from a guy like Paul Pierce? I like that. I like the fact that he's being a hater. You know what? It's good seeing somebody at least stay true to their roots. I'm still very uncomfortable with this Kendrick Perkins thing that's going on. Where I saw him today. He's got Hockman's T-shirt on and them goons from Miami. Like it now, it almost seems like he's he's doing like paid cameos. Like I don't even understand what we're doing here from him. So I don't know, man. It's very snake in the grass for me. I can't go on for what's doing. So yeah, some of you are rolling with some text. Jordan, who do you think we're playing next? Paul Pierce is trash, obvious. He's just mad because we knocked him out of the playoffs, obvious as well. I've been touting the Raptors. I think that's the best coach team I've seen this year. I think that's a tougher challenge. I want Boston because I want to whoop Boston's ass. That's what I want to happen. But I just don't think I don't think that I don't know. I just like Toronto better in a closeout game. They're champs. They got enough guys with experience. I got a feeling that even guys like, even their vets like Kemba Walker, he hasn't been very far in the playoffs. You saw him yesterday in the closeout game. He wasn't very good, even though he probably did get fouled there at the end, but the refs have been trash all bubble. So I don't know. I really want to take on I want Boston, but I think Toronto's gonna win. And I still think that the Heat got that too, man. I have no worries about this Eastern Conference Finals. Now, when the Heat get to the finals, I think that that's going to be a tough challenge. It's not that they can't win, but I think that just the way those guys can clogged up, especially the Lakers and the Clippers. I mean, Kawhi's an absolute monster. Not so worried about playoff P, but he's obviously not the first option on that team, and he's a pretty good number two. So, yeah, both of those LA teams I think are going to be tough challenges. But I don't know, man. I think with the rest that the Heat are getting right now, with how beat up whatever team comes out of this series, and just I gotta be honest, just the overall way that they play, the talent, the amount of options the Heat have. So that's just the way that I got. But I think the finals are going to be tough for sure. I really believe that, which they should be. Mark wants to know Giannis to Dallas. What's the move there though? Like trading Porzingis and picks? I don't know. It's probably not the worst offer that they could give him. And they would probably have to pull that move because they're surprisingly just not a good free agent destination. People spurn Mark Cuban all the time. It's a little bit of a weird thing with their franchise. So I don't know. I wouldn't rule it out because I don't think it's the worst piece that they could probably get if you're going to give up something. They just signed Porzingis to a deal, so they'd have him under control for a little bit, but you know, wouldn't completely rule it out. It'd be a scary ass tandem, Luka and Giannis. But you know, that's weird to me. We'll see. AKW beats. Will this champion have an asterisk? The bubble title. Only if Miami wins. That's the move they'll pull. If an LA team wins, they'll be happy. They'll be thrilled for them. But you know, how it's I'm sure that if a 5 seed does end up coming out of this, people are going to be like, oh, asterisk. And look, there are factors that you could look at this and say, well, you weren't truly tested because you didn't go out on the road. But F that, you know, like, all right, so you're telling me if you're Milwaukee, you need the crowd to beat the Heat? Like, that's what you need? You had more wins than anybody. You need a crowd to beat Miami? Same thing with Boston. You know, I'm sure, if you were going into a series against Boston and the Heat had to go win at least once there, yeah, that would be tougher. But you know, what are we doing here? I'll put my touchdown crown away. What are we doing here? We're gonna sit here and you're gonna bellyache because you didn't have Sully and Murph there cheering for you. I mean, you know, all right. Good. You know what the thing is though, you guys, if you're a Heat fan, and maybe you're not, you know, you're just asking in general, but if you're a Heat fan, pretty much every one of your championships, you can put an asterisk by it. You know, people have been doing that forever with the 06 title. They've saying the refs cheated the Mavericks. The 12 final, Shaq was like, well, you didn't play in the regular season for an extra 17 games. Like, he gave all effort in the regular season. The 13 title, people always say, well, if Ray Allen doesn't hit that impossible shot, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, well, if the greatest 3-point shooter didn't hit a 3-point shot. But people try and tear down titles all the time. Last year, the Warriors depleted. And Kawhi Leonard, you know, they're saying, well, if he wins his third title with a third team, he's the GOAT, even though he was a great player for the Spurs in 2014, but he wasn't like, you know, their main guy. Tim Duncan, you know, Manu Ginobili, Parker. He was just a 21-year-old freak who went and guarded LeBron, you know, pretty damn good. And I think if you look back at his numbers, even though I thought he was coasting, you wouldn't be like, whoa, he really shut him down. But you know, we all saw the memes of like LeBron and, you know, the when he would come in and whatnot. I guess I can curse. I don't know why I'm trying to censor myself. It's YouTube and Facebook, for God's sakes. So, yeah, I mean, you could do that with a ton of Warriors winning their first title. I mean, LeBron was out without Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. I mean, you could find little holes in everything you pretty much wanted to for most titles, I would think. Ultimately, I think if you're a fan, do you really give a rat's ass? Who cares? That's what I mean. My argument would be like, oh, okay, so you think that LeBron, or you think Jimmy Butler, or you think Giannis, that you think they needed you to win the championship. So yeah. Abu, why is Jimmy Butler's field goal percentage so low? Should he have more accountability? He's a max guy we signed besides game one. His offense has been pretty poor for a guy regarded as a closer. That is it's not an look, it's not an unfair criticism for a guy who's your max guy. I do think that Jimmy's not a pure scorer, as far as like that's not his go-to skill set. He is a great defender, he's a facilitator, he's an intense leader. So hold on a second. You good? You good? Oh, okay. My son was just joking around. So yeah, is he his offense, as far as that's concerned, is he hasn't been shooting it well that year, but it's been better in the playoffs. And it is funny when you hear like things like playoff Jimmy, and he'll have games where like he's had 2 games in that series where he turned into like this crazy monster closer and throwing his neck at the and throwing his neck at the rim. But then they'll have games where like, he's not doing that. Now I will give credit. I think Wesley Matthews balled out against him. I thought he played great defense, especially those last couple games. And he's been a selective shooter. He's done the old Dwayne Wade, I'm not a shooter, I'm a shot maker. He's had some really clutch threes, so that's been huge for him. But he wasn't good in the regular season closing. But he has been much better in the playoffs, and obviously they've only lost one game, so it hasn't been that much of an issue thus far. So, and I think this rest will help. I do think you saw maybe a little bit of a worn down Goran Dragic, just a little bit as those every other games we're checking on. So I think, it will behoove the Heat if they get into this series. I hope that they do get the jump on whoever they take on in the Eastern Conference Finals. Do you think that we have a chance against the Lakers and Clippers? Yeah, I think you have a chance just because, one, I think that shooting is super important in the playoffs, and the Heat are really, really good at it. The Lakers aren't that great a shooting team. I guess the big, I think the Heat. So I would think that the Heat just have to go. I think the Heat would have to go crazy from three, but they're good at going crazy from three. So yeah, I would give them a shot. So yeah, man, I do give them a shot, but I do think that, both of those series are really, really tough for them. How do I listen to your original radio show? I'm from Massachusetts. Okay, you could do this. You can go to your phone and download this app right here, the radio.com app. And you look up Miami, you'll see $7.90 the ticket. And, you can look up Tobin and Leroy. And you'll get, you can listen to us. We're on at 6 a.m. live on the air. And then if you want, you can rewind our show as the show is going on, or you could just download the podcast and you get 4 episodes every single day, the interviews, some special segments, all that type of stuff. So that's how you can listen to us. There are rumors going around of Chris Paul to the Bucks. Why do you think they would what would you think they would have to give up to get him? Can't be more draft picks. They have like 20. Sam Presti loves draft picks. I could definitely see them making that move because that's clearly a place they need to have some kind of improvement. So I could see that they got to do something drastic. I mean, you get slapped in the face in a 5-game series by the Miami Heat, and you have him and his free agent year coming up. They're gonna want to do something drastic, especially with his extension coming up. I believe that for sure. Crowder has been surprising me in the bubble. He's been awesome. You know what's funny, man? I was in one of those Zoom press conferences with Spo the other day, and he talked about this, and I mentioned this on my show, but how much he encourages him to shoot. He's like, what did he take? 12? Tell him to shoot more. If you hear him, like if he wants us to pass the message to him. And that's a great thing about Eric Spoelstra is that he's so encouraging to these guys to shoot. I think they all should also believe that he's a much better shooter than people think that he is. I heard Duncan Robinson talk about this today on Zach Lowe that, he thinks that the low years that he's had, those are anomalies. They like his stroke. And they really believe, like, if you're a guy who's a good shooter, they did this with Wayne Ellington, they did this with Duncan. And it's almost like a thing that's Jay, I think, has taken to it probably more than Duncan did almost, where he's willing to go out there and shoot a lot more and go crazy from it. And he, if you think about a game that starts with Bam, Jimmy, Duncan, and Goran, Jay is going to be the guy who's going to get a lot of opportunities, and he is crushing it right now. He really is. And he's been amazing on been amazing on defense. I remember Jimmy saying in the locker room after, I think 4 games in, he's like, I hope he's here for a long time. So we'll see what goes on from there. Why do you think Duncan struggled during this series? I think that they did a great job trying. They made it a part of their game plan to take him out. And they're very good at that. Spo was saying that the Bucks are particularly good at taking out 3-point shooters and making them work extra hard to get to their routes. And Duncan, I think, is still, he's still got a level of like feeling like he belongs. Like there's definitely some of that where I feel like we saw in the last game, like the frustration was very clear on his face. He's making dumb fouls. He was getting frustrated by the way DiVincenzo was running with him. I don't think that's going to be as much of a struggle against any of the other two teams that they take on. But the other thing is, he also hasn't closed in any playoff games either. Duncan is a funny thing where you could tell the good games, like it's almost like you could tell a good Duncan Robinson game right away. And usually it'll come out and he'll hit like 4 out of 5, like out of the gate sometimes. So I think that he had a tough series, but I don't think the coaching staff is worried about it. And that's tough. Like, I think people go into these playoff series, they look for some kind of thing to lop away. And I think the idea is if you're going to take something away from the Heat, you'd like to take away Duncan Robinson. And they feel like that if they put somebody out there who can run with them the whole time, they can get through it. Yeah, DiVincenzo, Mark says they defense was hard, man. They played hard. Let's see. So, what are the Heat's plans in 2021 if Giannis signs the Supermax? That's a good question. I would definitely say he's the biggest orca out there. I guess you could. I think Kawhi has an opt out. So who knows? I will say I think Riley's going to have his pick of the litter. Obviously, I think Victor Oladipo is almost like a layup to come to the Heat if that's where the Heat want to go. But I wouldn't say he impressed very much against the Heat. It's such a weird thing because I think the Heat have just taken on two teams that have guys in 2021 that they would definitely target, but neither one of those guys played very good. And it's kind of funny. I think almost like the team probably knows that those are guys that Riley would have his eye on, and they kind of demoralized all of them. So that was a funny thing to kind of check out. We get disrespected on national television. Yes, I knew that was coming though. I knew that there was going to be a level up. First of all, the big story was going to be Giannis obviously losing. What do the Bucks do? And I think that, people, I heard Stephen A the other day, he's very unimpressed with everybody. He's so unimpressed. He's like, I'm not impressed that the Miami won in 5. I'm like, oh, really? You're not, dude? Okay. Were you impressed that they got up 3-0? It's like, now you're not impressed because they didn't sweep them in an overtime game where the referees needed to, sent Milwaukee to overtime. But I get it, whatever. Then today he's like, oh, I'm not impressed with Boston because Boston didn't win in 6 games. It's like, oh, well, very highfalutin that he's not able to be impressed by anybody. So, the funny thing is, though, I almost felt like there was too much national love going into the series. Like it wasn't the majority of people picking the Heat, because I think most people kind of cowered it out on picking Miami. But I almost feel like now they're like, it's more that the Bucks were frauds than the Heat were good. And I think it's that the Heat were good more so than the Bucks were frauds. So, we'll see. It's going to be, the other thing with the Heat being a 5 seed, like they relented the 5 seed. If you want to say they weren't a top 3 seed, okay. I mean, what was the difference in it? 2 games? Like it was very minuscule. I think the difference between their record and Boston's. I think maybe Boston was a couple games up on them. If I'm gonna say, let me check out what it was. I want to be talking at it. Boston was like 4 games up on them. And they finished a game back at the Pacers, but they completely ducked on that last game. So I don't know, man. It's wild. Heat Nation, does Boston and Toronto scare you? Boston scares me. Toronto doesn't. Does either scare you? I mentioned that a little bit earlier. Heat Nation, no, actually they don't. They really don't. I'm not. I really feel like I've had a pretty good gauge on these playoffs. Not to pat myself on the back, but I thought that I just thought that Pacers were too small with their guard stuff. Even though they had some offensive success, they weren't going to be able to stop Miami.
I thought we all saw the trouble that the Heat gave the Bucks. And, as far as Boston, the regular season success that they had, they got them second nights of back-to-back twice. The Heat beat him in the bubble. So I kind of go with that a little bit more. And even the game that he played against the Bucks, I mean, they were kicking their ass for most of the game, and then it just kind of all unraveled on Miami. So yeah, I don't think either one of those teams are special. And I think that Miami, first of all, I think Miami's the deepest out of all of them. If you want to say who has the best player, I do think it's Jimmy on either team. Maybe you want to say Jason Tatum is the most talented. Okay. But he's young, and we've seen him fluctuate throughout the games. Kemba, never been a big playoff player. They're starting, they're four guys that they got in the starting unit. With Marcus Smart's a dog. He plays great. He does cheat, but he's a dog. And then Jason Tatum also always fluctuate. Jaylen Brown, always kind of fluctuates up and down. So yeah, that team doesn't, and then their bench sucks. So, and I think Bam gives Tice the business. So I just like the matchup there. I get what people are saying. Like, they think that their four talented guys are better than Miami's. Are they? I guess. I mean, the Heat have two All-Stars. They have Goran Dragic, who's been awesome. They have the best shooter in the league. They have Jay Crowder, who's been amazing, plus revenge series factor. Then you go to the bench. You have Tyler Hero, who's been the best rookie in the playoffs. He's got the biggest balls in all the playoffs. You have, Kelly Olynyk is usually going to give you a couple good games where he lights it up. Andre Iguodala has been pretty good. So yeah, I think the Heat can, and I also think that the Heat just have this chameleon-like ability where if a thing isn't going well for them, I think they can adjust naturally without kind of disrupting the whole order of the team. So yeah, man, I'm not scared of either one of those teams. Like I said, I think the LA teams are a different story. I think those finals are gonna be tough series for Miami, but the Eastern Conference Finals, especially with them beating the holy hell out of each other, I don't think so. Where has Nunn been at? He is I think he's starting to look actually pretty decent. I think Nunn's starting to find his spots a little bit. He is COVID bit his ass, man. Like he got sick. He got sick. And I think that, that's something that can't be ignored. So, Nunn was fluctuating too. Like, he'd have his games where he'd be Brick City, but I do feel like he's starting to get back into it, and it's been good seeing him back. I did see somebody earlier in the chat mentioned Derek Jones Jr. And I think that just comes down to, I think that probably comes down to Spo knowing that they're going to leave Derek Jones Jr. alone on every offensive possession, and he's going to shoot, and he's not a great shooter. And so I think that probably is the reason we're not seeing more of him, because, we remember that game where he came in and he was making a big time impact. Was it game 2? So I don't buy the COVID excuse Bam had. It's been a month. Like, do you feel like Bam's been playing terrible? I don't know. I know, like, a lot of people, you got to also realize with Bam, like, he's their best defender. Like, that's not always going to equate to him being this offensive guru. The one thing I will say that's a fair criticism of Bam is that there's almost an element to where I want him to be more aggressive, because I do think he's had some advantages and been some spurts. Like that third quarter, I want to say in game 3, he was, looking like an absolute monster. And then he just kind of he just kind of like deferred over to Jimmy, and Jimmy was having a hard time, and Goran was having a hard time, and I felt like Bam probably had the best advantage. I tell you what I love about it is that mid-range game is getting pretty sick. But Oh, you're saying okay? I get you. I my mistake. So you're saying none and bad. Yeah, but look, guys, people get COVID. It affects them differently. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like there'll be people who get COVID and they get the sniffles. There'll be people who go to COVID and they're in the hospital. Like that's how it works. I don't know what to tell you. Like maybe none has asthma for all we know, and it just hit him worse. Like it's not a sprained ankle. It's an internal disease. So I get you. All right, whatevs. Sorry for misunderstanding you. Robert with a Marlins question. Do you think the Marlins are making the postseason? They got to be in second place to definitely get it. I would say I'm leaning no because I just feel like the bullpen is awful, and I feel like they go into that a lot. I wish they would make the playoffs because I feel like if they did, they have a great rotation. Especially once Sandman kind of rolls back into form. I like the offense a lot better, but I'm a little bit skeptical with them making it. I'm not ready to say for sure. But I think if they did, obviously you have, Sixto's been, I tell you one thing, it's been unfortunate because it's been all heat all the time, and Tua's come, Dolphins at Tua, and they just are where they are in the the hierarchy of the town. But Sixto Sanchez looks like a damn star, man. Like a damn star. Thoughts on Daniel House? Nurse pants are hot. Who hasn't gone and seen the nurse in their outfit and been like, man, makes the keister look nice. So, Daniel House just had to get going. That's just what he had to do, man. That's what he had to do. Let's see what else. Tobin, your first personal favorite Heat memory. Oh man, do you want me to be live in the building? I was in the building for the This Is My House game. That was pretty awesome. I think that's probably the best one live I was there for. I didn't really go to I was at the Big Three game where they went on that crazy run on Boston to close them out. That was an awesome one. I was covering the game for the ticket of that one. Then I was producing the Heat broadcast, so I didn't get to go to any of the games live. Then I became the morning show producer, so I wasn't going to any of the games live. So that's kind of my one Big Three one. I'll tell you one I had this year that was really cool was having my first sit down with Pat Riley in his office. I don't think I'm ever going to forget that. Lights all dim, cool memorabilia all over the place. It's kind of just like a Hail Mary throw. I was like, I'll ask their media relations guy who's awesome, but they'll probably say no. Because I was trying to get a bunch of cool guys for Dwayne Wade's retirement ceremony, and they said yes. And we taped it, and he ended up giving me a quote that was basically saying, nobody thinks we can win the championship, that nobody picks us to finish high in the East. And it was funny because the one thing about Riley, and people who cover him will tell you this, sometimes it doesn't matter what the question you ask is. He has a message that he wants to get out. And I was asking him about what the All-Star weekend meant for his franchise after so much after just all the bill, what it meant to have 6 guys there that weekend, even with with Dwayne or something like that. And we he was like, it was good, and then he just kind of diverted into, but All-Stars are nice, but where great players come through is in the playoffs. And it was a cool moment. So that was one that meant a lot to me professionally and also personally, because love Riley, and I didn't. It was just a cool moment. Where can I cop that Peacock Pirate hat? This is actually Barry University. That's my alma mater. They had me there to throw a first pitch this year, and they gave me this hat. So I don't know their bookstore. I don't know where Barry sells their gear. They're not they're not like the Hurricanes. So I don't know if they have that. So yeah. Jake, Bam is the best defender in the league. I wish he would back people down more. I wish you would back people down. I wish you would. I wish you would try and make moves on with his dribbles too, with his handles. He's quick. He's got a lot of speed advantages on big men. I remember him giving Joel Embiid the business this year. Joel couldn't keep up with him, not even close. So I would like to see that more from him. Why did we sign Josh McRoberts to a 4-year? These are random ass questions, guys. Why did we sign Josh McRoberts to a 4-year deal back in 2015? Because Riley thought that he'd kind of be like this perfect complement to, like, stupid as this sounds, because Josh McRoberts is the biggest criminal in the history of the Heat organization. They thought that he was like this quintessential, like, role versatile big. I think the way that Riley liked his grit that he had in the Bobcat series beforehand. He forearmed LeBron right in the face. So, you know, he had a good year in Charlotte, but he was an offensive vacuum. And so they signed Josh McRoberts, they signed Danny Granger. And those were the only commits Riley could get. But then LeBron was 0-30 on him. I know Levitard reported back in the day that, like, they had Pau Gasol that they would convince to go, but, like, he believes LeBron tried to sabotage that. And mostly with Josh McRoberts, he had two things that sucked about him. One, he was never healthy. Two, he was a hippie. And three, you know, he was like 7 foot tall, and, like, he'd, you know, try and do, like, these stupid and one passes that he was never good at. And so that, that's the tale of Josh McRoberts. Let's never speak of it again. Terrible time. As the texter points out, same reason they got Napier. That was to please LeBron. Which, honestly, they made, you know, and that's the thing that pisses me off is, you guys, you know, that's the thing that it pisses me off is, like, they weren't even supposed to be in position to get Napier. It's like they pulled it out of, like, it was pulling a rabbit out of the hat to get Napier. So it's such a funny thing, and they did it just, and you know, Shabazz just, like, that never worked out. He's tiny. When do you think ESPN is going to start finally covering the Heat? I think you'll get a lot of coverage in the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think they're going to have a choice, and it also their series is ESPN series, so I think you'll get a lot of Heat stuff next week. But, you know, I think, honestly, guys, I think what happened was once the Heat went up 3-0 on the Bucks, that was going to be, like, you know, that then it's kind of an inevitable story. Like, but I think you're going to get more of that. Like, I know, I'm not going to read it, but Windhorse, like, wrote this piece today about how, like, the front offices are questioning tanking now because of the Heat's turnaround. I know Zach Lowe did a podcast with Levitard and Duncan Robinson that was really good. I listened to that today. So there's some good stuff. If you're looking for, like, First Take to talk about it, or Skip Bayless, probably not. You know, Joy's on the herd. Maybe he'll get a little. I know she did a little mention. He's not going to do it, but, you know, they won't have a choice when they're in the finals, will they? Henry, what would you give for Donovan Mitchell? I wouldn't give up what it takes to get Donovan Mitchell. I wouldn't give up what it takes. First of all, he's going to sign the extension with Donovan Mitchell's the biggest pipe dream. Like, Donovan Mitchell would need to make such a stink to get out of Utah, because he's going to sign a huge rookie extension, and nobody ever turns down the rookie extension. I think the only guy it actually happened with was Porzingis, of recent mind, of, like, who was a good player who ended up somewhere else. So he would need to make such a mess of it. It would require, and as one of the guys points out, it would require you got to either say you got to give it up, get with the idea that you would have to give up Hero for it to happen, and probably Robinson. They're not going to trade Bam for a couple reasons. One, he's too versatile. He's young. I think the sky's the limit for him. And I think, two, Bam has this he just seems like he has this energy where like everybody loves him, and he seems to be friends with all of the superstars in the league, Donovan Mitchell being one of them. But I would say you should look more towards 27-year-old Bam recruiting 27-year-old Donovan Mitchell more so than 24-year-old Donovan Mitchell and 23-year-old Bam getting together. Like, I would say it's probably a move 3 years down the line, maybe after Jimmy's deal is done. Some people mentioned in Booker. That was an interesting thing. I think the thing that's going to be funny is this next series, how well the Heat play, and I think they will play well. I think it's going to determine a lot for the future. I don't think there's going to be this drastic move in the offseason. I think that they like the fact of everything they put together. I think they like the development, obviously, of Bam. They love the development of Tyler. And I think that it's one of those things. I think it's one of those things where it's, maybe you have the discussion of Bradley Beal if you feel like you're right on the doorstep. Like, let's say they get there with the Lakers and, Tyler's just not quite there. Maybe they pull the trigger on that. But the other thing that's interesting about this Heat team is they are very, very close in that locker room. And Jimmy loves Goran Dragic. And he loves Tyler Hero. And he's already like put his stamp of approval on keeping him here forever. That doesn't mean anything. I mean, like, look, Riley can say, all right, we'll make new friends. That's the way he would go. And, like, I remember back in the day when Dwayne, Dwayne's best friend on the team was Darrell Wright. And, he's like his, godfather to his kids and all that type of stuff. And, Darrell went and, they stay friends. They end up going find new places. Like, I know people have said that with Derek Jones Jr. Like, oh, well, Bam be upset if they let Derek walk. And like, no, he's probably gonna be happy for his friends because his friend's gonna be rich. So I don't know. But I think that I don't think there is gonna be this big move this offseason. I think it's probably either gonna come in the trade deadline or 2021. Because I think the Heat they just want to add to this and have the cap space to add to this. But there are absolutely, like, we're going to see what happens with the Bam extension. If they're going to be, having this wink wink with his agent, like, don't worry, we're going to obviously take care of that. Is somebody going to try and swoop and poach Goran? Somebody does, Dallas go in and say, hey, we want you to be with Jan. Here's a 3-year, $60 million deal for Goran Dragic. It's funny because I hear one of my colleagues at the station is like, oh, there's no way anybody's going to pay Goran Dragic. It's like, there's not. Like, you don't think anybody who, even if you want to Goran Dragic just for a year, like, let's say the Bucks, the Bucks, you have to do everything to keep Giannis. Like, you don't think they would mortgage a little bit of salary to bring them in? So I don't know. I think Goran wants to stay, but I think you got to worry about will somebody kind of come in and swoop in. And Leroy actually made a good point about this, and that is with the emergence of Tyler, does that now wash out Goran? Like, is that the move? Or does Tyler become the starter next year and Goran is back to the bench role? That's an interesting one too. I'm not quite sure. Dylan, I'm a new subscriber to your channel. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Tell your friends. Brian says Dragic is loyal. I think he wants to stay. I mean, I will say that. I think he wants to stay in Miami, but we'll see. Mid-season trade that he pulled off. Jay Crowder might be expensive to resign. Do you think Riley's keeps everybody and still have money for a max player? I think that he's going to, I think he'd probably play hardball with somebody like Jay Crowder. I think it'd be like 1-year deal for Jay Crowder. I think with Goran, they do like a 1-year deal thing because Goran's just coming off a 5-year max. Goran loves it here. Jay doesn't really know it here, but he seems to really like it. He's close with Jimmy. I don't know about Meyer's future with the team. Obviously, with his injury, his stats aren't very high. I don't know. I honestly don't even know what his market's going to be. It's a bummer for him because he is a really good dude. But I'm sure this is not exactly how he thought it was going to be how this plan would go out. And I do think there's going to be an element to the Heat thinking to themselves, look, we can make all of this happen. We're going to get people in here that fit the way we want to fit. Obviously, Iguodala's coming back if he's not in some salary filler trade. Kendrick Nunn's not going anywhere. Duncan's not going anywhere. Bam's not going anywhere. Jimmy's not going anywhere. Tyler's not going anywhere. So the big questions are, Gogi, Jay, DJJ, and Kelly if he opts out, I guess. So, maybe there's going to be some, if Kelly's agent finds out and say, hey, if Kelly has a good Eastern Conference Finals and they say, hey, somebody wants to give you a 3-year guarantee. And, he had a knee injury this year. Could he leave? And that would open up some more money too. There's that stuff to work out as well. So yeah, man, that's that. Chris Silva has potential. He is, I like Chris Silva. I know somebody mentioned KZ Okpala, the legend of KZ Okpala. We'll see. The thing was, we haven't even seen anything from KZ really much because he's been hurt. He was hurt. So there's that. Somebody says, I wish you could get Kendrick Perkins on live. Hey, he's Hawks guy. I'm a little bit weary with the Kendrick Perkins thing. I got to be honest with you guys. It's not like I think, and I always want to preface this by saying, I have been saying Kendrick Perkins is very good at television. He's very good. He says crazy things. He makes for good television. I'm a little bit weary of him being like champion of the Heat on national television. Like, okay, you made a Heat prediction back in the day. Cool. Like, for example, now he's cut in with this Hawk t-shirt deal, right? Honked off like a goose.com if you want a Dem Goons t-shirt. Now, like, the first rant was natural. Like, he pulled off a home run. But now it's like it feels like when I'm watching him do these videos now, it feels like I'm watching a dude do a cameo. The site Cameo where the celebrities do the paid ads. So now it seems like he's trying to like get his lines in, but it just feels like he's placating. Like, really? You're gonna root for the Heat you're gonna root over if I was a Celtics fan, to be honest with you, if I found out Kendrick Perkins was rooting for the Heat over the Celtics, I'd be like, really? You are? Because why? Because some radio show likes you? Could you imagine like Udonis Haslem? Not that like we ever could put Kendrick Perkins with the likes of this greatness, but like, could you imagine like a beloved champ? Let's say like Birdman, right? Let's say like Chris Birdman Anderson. Let's say in a weird universe, he was a good TV analyst, right? And I found out that Chris Birdman Anderson was like doing a bit with Sully and Murph, and he's like, I think that the Celtics are going to wax the Heat. I'd be like, really, Birdman? You do? Really? So I don't know. That's just me. A little bit weary of it. Not that I don't find it entertaining. Like somebody says, oh, they're funny. They are funny, but at an arm's length. That's all I want. You know what? I just wanted to do funny videos. I don't want Kendrick Perkins coming down to Miami. I don't want him getting a parade float. And none of that. Let's not act like he's our mascot. So, how many good years do you think Jimmy has left? I mean, this is the healthiest he's been. I don't see any reason why he can't be good at 34, man. Like I think that's probably the idea behind getting, another piece with him, which he believed. Like I think when he said to Rachel Nichols, I guarantee it's going to happen or something like that. So I think that's going to happen for sure. He's had injury stuff in the past, where he's missed some playoff time, but he's always tuned up for the playoffs. I mean, that was, we're familiar with that down here. That happened with D Wade a little bit, where he'd they'd kind of cruise it through. Wish we got Jimmy at 27, sure. Although it made maybe in another life they would have traded Bam for him. Role player Bam for Jimmy. Maybe it worked out perfectly. So yeah, man. I think that's what I'm going to do for today, everybody. But I might start doing these on the reg because I had a lot of fun chatting with you guys. It was a good time, but I feel like 44 minutes. I got to start cooking my family some dinner. I got the grill tonight fired up. Plus, we have Canes football tonight, so I am looking forward to that as well. If Giannis goes to the Warriors, I'll cry. I don't. I mean, free agency, sure, that would be horrible, but I don't think. Jimmy choked versus Boston was Wayne and Rondo was there. He has extra motivation. Yeah, it's true. Good memory. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to call it on this one, guys. Thank you so much for tuning to this chat, and had a lot of fun with you guys.